So I wanted to talk about what I think my life would be like if I never left Hawaii for college when I graduated from high school, as well as what I think my life would be like if I never moved back to Hawaii 12 years ago. And this is more than just like those times when you're sitting in traffic on the H1 and you see the other lane moving a lot faster and you think to yourself, oh, what if I go in that lane? Or would I be up far ahead? Or in those moments when you're standing in Costco Evole and all the checkout lines are so long and you're standing there thinking, am I in the right line? Should I have gotten in that line instead? And I know there's probably some people out there thinking, brother, why are you wasting your time thinking about the what ifs? And that's a fair point, but I think it's a very interesting exercise in imagination and reflection and just where I would see myself. By the way, Hawaii, we got a couple of scares, right, with those tropical storms and hurricanes, but everything seems to be okay. It's a little wet, but I think we'll manage. By the way, what do you call these? These are little spiky things that stick to your shoe and your leg and your pants. We used to call them spikies and spike balls, and brother, if you get it caught in your slipper, whew, sore. So what do I think my life would be like if I never left Hawaii? That right after high school graduation, I just stayed here. Well, first let me just sort of set the stage on what actually happened in my life. So after graduation from McKinley High School, go Tigers, I went off to the University of Northern Colorado for 4 years. I graduated and then I moved to Oregon for a year, and then I moved back to Colorado to finish up grad school. And then after that I stayed in Colorado and I worked, and after that I decided to move to California for a little bit. Just stayed with my brother for the summer, and then after that I moved back home to Hawaii. And with that, there were so many wonderful experiences, so many wonderful people that I met, and a lot of growing up. And I'm thinking about never leaving in Hawaii. I think I should start with education, because education is very important to me and it's been a big part of my life. Now, in all reality, I probably would have gone to the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Nothing wrong with that, to those UH grads out there, nothing wrong with that, but I probably would have just ended up at UH. And so I would have majored in journalism at UH, and I see myself probably getting an internship at one of the local newspapers or just one of the local news outlets. And ultimately, I think I probably would have ended up at either the Star Advertiser, the local paper here, or possibly even the Civil Beat. Now, socially, I probably would have continued to hang out with my friends from high school and maybe met some new people at UH, and we kind of just all hang out. It's one of the things that I look forward to the most when I would come back for summer or Christmas breaks. I stay out late, hang out with my friends, play volleyball, you know, the typical college age things. And marital status wise, I'd probably be married, probably to a local girl, maybe local Japanese girl, I don't know. But probably would be married, and I think at this point in my life, had I stayed in Hawaii, married, maybe with a couple of kids, maybe living in a condo. Probably not in Kaka'ako though. I don't think I could afford that with what I would be doing, but possibly, you know, maybe Salt Lake or maybe even Kaneohe. But let's be real, probably would be on the west side. And had I stayed here, I definitely would not have this YouTube channel. I might have a YouTube channel, maybe gaming or something else, but no way would I have this YouTube channel about Hawaii. It would be very difficult, I think, to talk about Hawaii in a bigger context if I had never left Hawaii. Not saying that you can't, and you could try, but what I hope comes across in these videos is someone who has been out of Hawaii, who grew up here, who kind of understands the local culture, but at the same time has experienced other things and can provide some broader perspective on Hawaii's place or culture. And I've always tried to, like Bill Bryson, the travel writer, is to sort of talk about something that I know, that I'm an insider on, but also from an outsider's perspective. I think that's a very unique voice to be able to have. It's one of the reasons why I enjoy a lot of his writing. But I think the big question to ask myself is, would I be happy? Or would I have been happy had I stayed in Hawaii? Well, I would have had my parents, my my brother, my auntie's uncles and cousins that would have been around for all the holidays and get-togethers during that whole period. So yeah, I think I would have been happy. And who knows, maybe I would have one of those big Tacoma trucks. But I think deep down, I would have felt like that potential that I had was wasted. That I could have possibly done more with who I was or who I am as a person, but I just never try. Because sometimes I think about that for even my current life and the major that I picked in college. I've always wondered if I had picked something a little bit harder, maybe business or something like biology or pursuing something in the medical profession. How hard could I really have pushed myself? Because to be honest, I sort of just kind of cruised through undergrad. My first real challenge academically was in grad school, and I loved it because I was actually pushed to pretty much my extreme when it came to reading. Because I don't know if you read Middlemarch, but whew, brother, that thing is so thick and the book is so long and there are so many characters in it that I actually had to write notes on characters because characters died so early in the book that I wouldn't be able to remember them. I mean, you're talking about cliff notes on cliff notes on cliff notes. Likewise, I think if I had stayed in Hawaii my entire life, I would have that feeling. Like, I'm happy with how things turned out, but I would have always wondered, what if? What if I had just chance them and just go? All right, now let's talk about what if I had never come back. And I think this one's probably more relevant to a lot of people who watch this channel, a lot of people who are away. You know, I've received a lot of emails and messages from former local people who are wondering, hey, I'm kind of in a similar situation as you. My parents are getting a little bit older. I don't know, you know, should I move back? And that's always something tough to answer. For me, I'm glad that I came back, but for other people, it may be a harder decision. It's not just based on parents. It could be financial or your vocation, and you got your kids and school, and so it could be a tough choice. But let's just say I got to go to the mainland after high school. I got to experience all the things that I did, travel and all of that. But I would have been on the mainland for the past 12-ish years. Through the pandemic, where would my life be there? So first, let's start with work. I most likely would have continued teaching at the university. It's probably the best job I've ever had. Not that any other job was not great, although some of my past manual labor jobs were not so good. You know, the boxes and working in the stock room, that was tough. Grocery store. But besides that, teaching in front of college kids was probably the best experience I've had in any line of work. Because at the college level, when you teach, you can just focus on the teaching part. Besides, I guess if you do research, you got the research part. But for me, it was just the teaching part. I didn't have to deal with parents. And what I really appreciated on just how the system works out is because everyone is an adult, I can treat them like adults. I can treat the students like adults. So on the first day of class, I spelled out, hey, this is my class. If you miss this many classes, you're gonna fail. If you're not okay with that, then you're more than welcome to sign up for another class, although we all had the same attendance policy, so you would fail anyway. But I always spelled out for my students on the first day how you're gonna get an A for this class. If you do these 7 things in this class, and they're very simple, it's not even being a good writer, right? It's just basic things for how you're probably gonna be successful in college, then you will get an A in this class. And I would go and explain like what you need to do to get an A in this class, or if you want B, if that's what you want, but just to put it up front. And there is no hand holding. Never did I have to deal with any parents. And if a student ever complained about, oh, why did you fail me because I missed so many classes, I would just point to the syllabus. There it is. And I didn't have to feel any remorse. But that's not to say that I didn't care about my students. I did very much so. And that to me was such an enriching experience, getting to know them and getting to work with them over the course of a semester. Because to see these young 18, 19-year-old kids mature, even just in that first 4 months of their college careers, I don't know, it's very special to be a part of that. And I had so many great students over the years. So many good students. I just think of one that I still remember all these years later. She was this student who was a sort of a student athlete, but she was sponsored in snowboarding because we're in Colorado. And so she was a snowboarder who was sponsored, so I guess a semi-professional snowboarder, but she was also in a sorority and she was a full-time student. I have no idea how she balanced all of that. And as a student, she was great because she had a very strong opinion. And all I had to do was just kind of guide that opinion to the paper, to make sure that and transfer whatever she was thinking, that strong opinion, just kind of polish up some of those ideas, some of those arguments and points, and just turn it into a paper. And I remember one day after class, she came up to me and she's like, "Oh, can we talk?" And I'm like, "Sure. What do you gotta talk about?" Like, I thought it was about, like, you know, the work or, you know, that lecture for the day. But she just wanted to talk story about how, you know, it was getting really hard and she didn't know what to do because she had school and she had snowboarding and she had sorority stuff. And so she kind of just talked through that. And I was just there sort of listening because I didn't really know what to say. I mean, I'm barely 5 years older than this student. I barely know what I'm doing, right? And she's asking me for advice. But I think more importantly, she was asking just to have someone to listen to her. And looking back, I'm very proud that she was willing to open up to me. I mean, come on, you gotta remember, I'm a local boy from Kaneohe here, you know? I mean, you got this typical, you know, mainland college girl and local, you know, Japanese Kaneohe boy right here, and she's coming to me because she felt comfortable enough to talk to me because of the way that I taught in the classroom. So all that to say, I probably would still be teaching at UNC, knowing me, maybe Ames or some other community college up there, but I probably would be doing that still after all these years. Wow, look at that. Oh, look at that rainbow, huh? It's pretty nice. But now moving on socially, I think I would have suffered here. I had a lot of great friends in Colorado, but because it's a college town, it's a college setting, eventually people move on. They don't stick around, right? Because they graduate and they go back to Hawaii, they go wherever else that they came from. And I don't think I would be married if I had stayed on the mainland. It's not that I didn't date a mainland girl, I did, but I don't think I would be married. I don't think I would have kids. And so because of that, even though I have a lot of free time, I don't know how happy I would be. And I probably would have come back home to Hawaii every Christmas and get to see my family and friends here. But I just see my life very different in that aspect. And it's hard to imagine now being married for over 5 years and having a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. It's hard to imagine a life, not just without them, but just without that family setting. And so just asking myself again, would I be happy if I had stayed? And for me, the answer is no. I don't think I would be happy. Again, without having a family and, you know, kids, it would be tough. Without being able to see my aunties, uncles, and especially my parents, I think that would be very difficult. But I think my life I think it would be a little boring. And I probably would have regretted not coming back. And who knows, maybe at that point I would have already decided to move back because it was just too hard. So in kind of reflecting on this, I think it's very interesting that had I stayed in Hawaii, I probably would be happy because I guess maybe that most aligns with where my life is today. And had I stayed on the mainland and didn't return, I probably would be unhappy. Now that doesn't mean everyone should come back to Hawaii, that you can't be happy if you don't come back. That's not what I'm saying, but I guess this is very interesting when we just reflect back on how our life turned out, how our life is turning out. And it doesn't mean that I always made the right choices, because I definitely made a lot of mistakes, especially in Oregon. But because of my time in Oregon, because of some of the poor choices that I made in my life, I made other decisions that changed the trajectory of where I went. If I didn't go to Oregon, I never would have gone back to school, to grad school. I wouldn't have taught and wouldn't have known what a wonderful experience teaching is. And then from there, I had to decide whether I was gonna come back home. If I had decided to stay, which was very comfortable, well, I don't know if I'd be happy, but I made the hard choice to move back home, and it was hard. It's expensive and, you know, somewhat small kind shame, but I'm glad I did. But I think more than that, if you just keep moving forward in life, you just keep trying, I think things tend to work out. And I think it's when you stop trying in life that life kind of gets stale. And it doesn't even matter if you're rich or you poor. It doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. You could drive a Tesla. You could drive a beat up 20-year-old car like I do. I think if you continue to try new things and you don't give up, no shame, here and there, makes life interesting. And I think because of a lot of the choices that we made with a whole bunch of luck, our family is now able to enjoy a pretty good quality of life. It's not perfect, like I said, 20-year-old bust up car, but hey, it gets us from point A to point B, and it's nice not having a car payment. Life is pretty good here in Hawaii. And sure, I can go down all the avenues and all the alternate timelines on what if. But I think the point is not really to dwell too much on the what ifs, especially if you think you made a lot of mistakes and you really regret those things. I think more importantly, looking back on the what ifs just shows us how grateful we are for what we do have. That although, sure, maybe things could have turned out differently and better in some areas, a lot of other things would be taken away as the consequence of that. So yeah, thankful for what I have and how things have turned out here in Hawaii. And so with that, thanks for watching and aloha. Whew. Rainbow.